We may be through 14 weeks of football, but that does not mean that the football talk stops here. Oh, no, sir. No, ma'am. It goes on rolling through. We go to week 15. We got a lot to talk about from week 14. I'm Kenny C, back on the ones and twos. Glad to be back here with you guys. If you don't subscribe, stop right there. Hit the button on the screen. It's so easy to do, but it helps so enormously. And you will want to do it because I keep that entertainment. I keep that energy. Bring the facts, bring the opinions, and most of all, I want to hear from you throughout this entire video in the comment section below. We're going to chop it up. This week's episode is Week 14, will they? We will get into a multitude of topics. I'll ask you, will they blank, blank, blank? And you will give me your opinions in the comment section below. A lot to talk about with Phillip Rivers coming back from the dead. The Chiefs' kingdom, are they finally dead? Have they finally fallen? We're getting into a whole slew of stuff, but to start it off here, the Philadelphia Eagles, will they be a first-round exit? Well, they're sitting at the 3 seed right now at 8-5, coming off of a bad loss on Monday Night Football to a 1.5 hands worth Justin Herbert and the Chargers. That's a bad loss, 22-19 in overtime. They fell apart. Throughout the entire game, they never really had it. Let's be real. Jalen Hurts, 4 interceptions and a fumble. Will the Philadelphia Eagles be a first-round exit? They're probably going to win the division, although we can talk about that because it's getting quite interesting, especially with this loss. But they would play the 6-seeded 49ers right now. I don't think they would beat San Francisco. I think that this is a Philly team, like we saw 2 years ago, get bounced in the wild card by the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They ran all over them. Baker Mayfield and company steamrolled the Eagles. I think we see more of a repeat of that. This is an Eagles team that does not have an identity offensively. They don't know what the hell they're doing. 2 explosive runs to start Monday Night Football from Saquon Barkley. Then they shy away from him as the game progresses. Then they get back to him as he breaks that, 52-yard rushing touchdown. But then they shy away from him again. And then A.J. Brown's dropping balls. He dropped at least 2 touchdown passes from what I watched. Devontae Smith, they didn't really target him at all. You allowed Justin Herbert with a surgically repaired left hand to scamper all over the field, make plays with his feet, make plays with his arm, and ultimately beat you with Cameron Dicker. The Philadelphia Eagles are in some deep trouble on a 3-game losing streak, a bad loss to Chicago, a bad loss to Dallas before that, and now a loss to a Chargers team that barely squeaked that one out with a quarterback who was getting chased around by Jalen Phillips and by Nakobe Dean, and all those boys were buzzing. Moro Ajomo, they were getting in there, they were getting pressure on Herbert, but he did enough, even with Labiconki getting his first catch in the 4th quarter, which is a problem. But these are 2 teams that it's clear to see on Monday Night Football after that game. 2 teams that will not survive and sustain a deep run in the playoffs. I think Philadelphia is a first-round exit. You can make a case that the Dallas Cowboys will come by storm and take the division at 6-1. Now Dallas, they got Minnesota, they got the Chargers, then they got Washington and the Giants. I see a world in which the Dallas Cowboys, they could go 3-1 there. I think they could beat Minnesota and beat the Chargers. Divisional matchups are always tough. I think if you look at apples to oranges between the Commanders and the Giants, I think the Giants have a better shot of beating Dallas. So I think that Dallas could beat Washington. They could go 3-1 in their last 4 games. And if Dallas does that, they'd be sitting at 9-7, 9-7-1. Philadelphia, they have a get-right game against the Raiders. Then they got Washington twice and Buffalo. Jaden Daniels, I feel like, has the capabilities to beat this Eagles team, Buffalo, I think that's a loss. And I think you lose at least 1 to Washington. But if the Eagles keep screwing around offensively with their zero identity and not figuring that out, they could find themselves on the wrong side of losing this division to the Dallas Cowboys. It might be a long shot. Cowboys got to run the table. But either way, I think the Eagles, I'm standing on the fact that the Eagles will be a first-round exit. As we move on along here, will the Colts make the playoffs? Because now we get the horrible news, or we knew it in the moment, that Daniel Jones tore his Achilles The season's over for him. We don't have to put the big question mark as to whether or not if this team goes deep in the AFC, will it come down to Daniel Jones ruining it for them? We will never know now. We will never know whether or not Daniel Jones would have been a hero or a villain with the turnovers, or whether or not he would have propelled them deep into the playoffs with Jonathan Taylor as his trusty sidekick. Now they got Riley Leonard, the Notre Dame man. My guy Riley Leonard from Notre Dame, coming off of a championship loss to Ohio State last year, gets drafted by this Colts team. He has a strained knee ligament, so he is day-to-day. But then they bring in the 17-year vet, has not played football in 5 years. He has 10 kids. He's 44 years old. Phillip Rivers is signed to the practice squad for the Colts. We'll have to see how practice goes for him Wednesday and Thursday, but we could see a Phillip Rivers-led Colts team for the first time in 5 years. They lost to the Bills in that wild card game in 2020. Can Phillip Rivers, can old Phil, Uncle Phil, if you will, take this Colts team and get them into the playoffs? Well, when you look at the playoff picture, things are pretty tight in the AFC, and that division, I think, is Jacksonville or Houston's to win. I think the AFC South is out of the question for the Colts. Even with them setting at 8-5, they are rolling slowly on a 3-game losing streak. You had the blowout loss to Jacksonville, in which you lost Daniel Jones. Before that, you lost to Houston 20-16. Houston's heating up since they've gotten Stroud back. And then they lost in overtime to a Chiefs team, 23-20, a few weeks ago. That loss looks really bad now just because of how poorly the Chiefs have played, with Houston getting a big win over the Kansas City Chiefs. Will the Colts make the playoffs? I honestly don't think so. I don't know if Phillip Rivers has enough in the tank to get this Colts team into the Yoffs. And when you look at Jacksonville sitting at 9-4 in that division, and with Houston and what they've been able to do, Stroud, week 8 gets a big win over the 49ers. Then he gets concussed the next week. In week 9 against Denver, he's out. Davis Mills, this is a testament to DeMeco Ryans and that coaching with what DeMeco Ryans been able to do with this Houston team. Mills gets big wins over Jacksonville and over Buffalo. Then they get Stroud back, and Stroud rolls to a win over the Colts and rolls recently to a win over the Chiefs. The Chiefs' kingdom might have fallen. Travis Kelce makes that catch nine times out of 10. He doesn't. The ball gets picked off. The Chiefs also went for it on 4th down. Didn't get it. Had another 3rd down. I think it was 3rd and short. Mahomes threw another pick. So this is a Chiefs team that I don't think will make the playoffs at this juncture, sitting at where they're sitting at. But the Colts, it's looking bleak. The chances of them running things looks bleak. Phillip Rivers is 44 years old. It would be an awesome, epic story. But I just think that the AFC South specifically, the division's out of hand, out of the question for them. And then when you look at the rest of the AFC, I don't see Houston letting up anytime soon. And the Chargers are the one team that I think could falter and perhaps let the Colts in if they're able to do some damage with Phillip or with Riley. But it's going to look pretty glim for them to try to run it. What do you guys think? Drop your comments in the comment section below as we continue to move on. NFC talk now. Will the Packers win the NFC North after coming away with a big 28-21 statement victory over the Chicago Bears? I know they play them in 2 weeks' time, and it's going to be at Soldier Field in Chicago. That very well could be a game for the division, with the Packers sitting at 9-3-1 and the Bears at 9-4. A tie separating the two teams, but the Pack come out, put their foot down. The defense makes a statement with the Keyshawn Nixon interception to Caleb Williams, the back end of the game. The Packers dominated the first half. I don't like how the defense looked gassed and took their foot off the gas pedal in the second half. Sort of let Caleb back into the game, let the Bears back into that game. Green Bay has to stand firmer defensively in the second half, in my eyes, but Jordan Love was absolutely money. Aside from the first quarter interception, he was on the money. 3 touchdowns, 2 to Watson, 1 to Bo Melton. The Packers, baby, I'm telling you, everyone wants to doubt Jordan Love and say, I don't know if he's the guy. I don't think he's worth $55 million. Jordan Love in the clutch time, when you take November and December, that's when Jordan Love plays his best football, and that's all that matters from a quarterback. You want them playing their best football in those 2 months especially in December. Packers have a big statement game against the Denver Broncos in Denver. That is not going to be easy when you look at that defensive front from the Broncos with Jonathan Cooper and Nick Benito and Allen. They have some big boys up front and some talent, and that secondary is lights out as well. But when you look at the Packers, I think if you go down the list, they're better in every facet. They're better at quarterback. I'm taking Love over Bo Nix. Nix has to lead fourth quarter comebacks for this Denver team to get wins. I think they're a fraudulent top 2 team in that AFC. Their record shows one thing, and I think their play shows another, especially offensively, more specifically. When you look at running back, I'm taking Jacobs over R.J. Harvey. I'm taking the Packers receiving core over Sutton and Troy Franklin. I'm taking Green Bay over them. The defensive front for Green Bay, I'm taking Rashawn Gary, Micah Parsons. What we saw from Kingsley and Ekbari with that big tackle on Monangai at the end of the Bears game, that was huge. Packers D front is better. I take the Denver secondary over the Packers secondary. But I think this is a game in which Green Bay should win. Shedeur Sanders and the Browns, will they come away with a victory at Chicago against the Bears? Probably not. So you're looking at 2 teams that are sitting at 10-4 and 10-3-1 by the time they play each other in Chicago in 2 weeks' time. That game could decide a division. The answer to my own question, yes, the Packers will win the NFC North. They're rolling right now at the right time. I think they get a win against Denver, and then I think they double down and they clean sweep the Bears in a tightly contested affair in 2 weeks' time. But then they got Baltimore. Baltimore can't get out of their own way. Then they got Minnesota, who the Packers already waxed. For the Bears, like I said, you got the Browns and Shedeur. Then you got the Green Bay game. Then you got San Francisco and Detroit. Detroit's on the outside looking in right now in the NFC. They're here to play spoiler ball. They already trounced the Bears early in the season in September. Much different circumstances now. But that's a Detroit team that's not going to go down lightly. I could see a world in which the Packers finish out better in their next 4 compared to Chicago. Give me the Packers to win the NFC North and stay the kings of the North. And to wrap this thing up, we'll stay in the North. We'll look at the AFC here. Will the Steelers win the AFC North? Will they pull it out? In last week's episode, when I talked about the teams in the hunt, I picked the Chiefs to run it. I picked them to beat the Texans on Sunday Night Football. That did not happen. Even with C.J. Stroud having great difficulty trying to find open guys downfield, and with Woody Marks pretty much taking on the brunt of the load, and then that defense being able to do what it does, which is fly around the field and be physical. Jalen Petrie was flying around the field. Kamari Lassiter, they were doing their thing. And then the boys up front in Will Anderson and the other pass rusher who was a former Viking, Danielle Hunter, them doing their thing, getting pressure on Patrick Mahomes. They were able to come away with a big victory. But when we're talking about the AFC North here, I did not pick the Steelers as a team who Rodgers, a couple weeks ago with the banged up hand, I did not pick them to beat the Ravens. I didn't think they had the wherewithal to beat the Baltimore Ravens. And now, on the road nonetheless. And now I have to sing a different tune because Baltimore has been abhorrent. 27-22 loss. Lamar Jackson and the offense just look lifeless. They did get robbed with the Isaiah Likely no touchdown. I mean, how in the hell, in what world is that not a touchdown? He caught it, took 2 steps, had control the whole way. That's as easy as it gets if you're an official. That should have been a touchdown. But Baltimore struggled heavily in that game. And defensively, when you look at the Steelers' offense, you should be able to stop that one-dimensional offense. Because DK Metcalf had a game finally, 148 receiving yards. But most teams have been able, at least in the past few weeks, to neutralize DK Metcalf and force Rodgers to elevate guys around him like he's done his entire career and try to win games. Jaylen Warren was the second leading receiver on this team. That's a problem. Darnell Washington gets the concussion. Now we'll have to see if he comes back because he does a lot for this offense. He is a mammoth of a man. He blocks for them. He catches it in space and trucks over guys. He's a favorite target for Aaron Rodgers, so that's going to be an obstacle for them. But the Steelers are able to pull out a win, even with how one-dimensional they are. It's Jaylen Warren and Kenneth Gainwell in the backfield. It's neutralize DK Metcalf and force Rodgers to go to other guys like Roman Wilson or Ben Skronik or Darnell Washington. Pat Freiermuth has been silent. We have not heard any Muth calls over the last few weeks. So the fact that the Steelers were able to pull out a win against Baltimore is impressive. Now, will the Steelers win the North? I mean, at this point, I don't think I can side with Baltimore at 6-7. Baltimore's got Cincinnati with Burrow back. You see what they were able to do this past week against Buffalo, just coming close to almost beating them in the snow. Cincinnati's the real deal with Burrow under center. They got the Patriots, they got Green Bay, and then they got Pittsburgh to wrap up the season. The Steelers have Miami, Detroit, who's going to give them trouble, and then Cleveland and hosting Baltimore for the final week of the season. Division can come back. I said it last week. Division can come down to the final game of the season. And when you look at the AFC with the 9-4 Chargers, 9-4 Buffalo, and 8-5 Houston rounding out the top three, it's going to be an uphill climb for the Ravens to try to make it. Give me the Steelers to win the North. I really thought it was going to be Baltimore when they were both 6-6. Baltimore was home. I thought, all right, the Ravens got this. They're going to beat the Steelers. They're going to go 7-6, and they're going to be in the driver's seat. And we just have not seen it from Lamar and company. So give me the Steelers. Give me Aaron Rodgers, battling Father Time at 42 years old. Happy belated to the old man. In the driver's seat right now to win the North. I want to hear from you guys. Drop your comments in the comment section below on any and all of these topics. Give me your thoughts. And most of all, hit that subscribe button and stay tuned because Week 15 is coming, baby.